Okay, I'm going to use the Bass FC Bass video. There's a little bit of yeah, interesting stuff, definitely related to what my something that my project is focused on anyway. I mean, I am thinking about things in a much more broad way than what's obvious, and that's but it's if I keep making things more and more and more abstract, it's just I'm already like just at the point where I'm driving people fucking insane. So, but the idea with who's to blame, right, and sort of pointing the finger: is it men's fault? Is it women's fault? So I think it's important to try to find parity in the situation because it's going to be both sides that fix it. So it's really important for us, let's say as men, to say we're fucking up here, you know. So whatever that is, expressing our masculinity in a healthy way and developing, let's say, the systems that we feel like we need to develop in order to create the situation that we want to create, right? And the same thing could be said for women, where what do they want to perpetuate, right? Do they, with a little bit of foresight, it could be like, do I want to put so low investment into the creation of children that it's just like throwing them into the wild, right? So, yeah. So, the other thing that's really interesting to me is you have something like a spectrum, right? Where on one end of the spectrum there's very few men and a lot of women, and then in the other, the other end of the spectrum there's a lot of men and very few women, right? So, and I'm not even saying that this is necessarily wrong, but it's going to create problems. Like we're not structurally, we're not, that's something that's going to snap. It's something that's going to break. So, having some foresight, looking ahead, we can say that, you're not going to be able to have a few women servicing a lot of men. It's just not going to work. And for the women, for the few women, let's say for the many women that go after the few men, there's an issue there too. Like you have to think about what is it that you're investing into. You kind of want to be in a position. Anybody, I think, should want to be in a position where you're not necessarily looking for the finished product. You want to be involved with creating the thing that's going to be. If you're just looking for the finished product, then you're completely putting everything out of your control, and you're just going to be a slave to chasing after whatever the hell it is that you want, right? So, there's the finished woman there. There's the finished man there. No, if you're not willing to invest into creating a relationship that modifies the behavior of all the parties involved, then it's just kind of cheap bullshit. It's just like buying, when you finally get what you want, if you even get what you want, but when you finally get what you want, it's just like, it's not yours. It's not something that you're responsible for in any way. So, yeah, I mean, it's important for both sides to take on responsibility. Just like an individual, like me as a person, it's important if I'm going to be psychologically, if I'm going to arm myself to be productive, it's really important for me to put as much responsibility as I can onto myself, because that's the proactive thing. But as much responsibility as I put on the rest of the world, that is out of my control. Right? It's sort of like the idea of freedom and determinism. If I obsess about determinism, boom, I've eliminated my own power to act in my life, right? My own power to determine my own destiny, my own freedom. So that's why I would rather obsess about my freedom than obsess about determinism, even though determinism is a very important factor. But if you use it from the perspective of wanting to play with the levers of determinism, and not from the perspective of your will being bound by circumstance, right? Like, you want to work with circumstance, but you don't want to enslave yourself to it. So, I don't know. These are some points here, and I'm trying to hit some stuff I could talk about quickly so I don't sound so fucking retarded on
It
this.
hasn't really stopped feminism, like, interworkings, like, between people and even in, like, mainstream.
Just try and see if I dig up another point.
Men. In fact, ironically, the response men feel to women goes left and right all the time. I hate these whores. I've never seen that, Perhaps you have, and if you have, pointed out to me. I would like to see it myself.
I mean, there was the thing. So there was the the more valid point. The point that's harder to contend with is the idea of women choosing to have such low investment situations, and but once again, we can find parity there, like I said before. But I'm just going to reiterate, because why the fuck not? It's a good point. It really is up to men that aspire to be equality men to create systems whereby and I guess so you can go back into the page. So this is kind of interesting, right? It connects a little bit into your idea of men wanting to sort of reinstantiate a patriarchy because they see women acting irresponsibly. To me, it's a little bit it's different, because I'm not looking at it from the perspective of forcing anybody to do anything. It's more just about having the better fucking sales pitch, about being the more appealing thing, the more appealing candidate, right? So if you get your shit together, then it's just going to make you a much more appealing candidate. But then there's all kinds of roadblocks to us getting our shit together, as to the extent that we would like to. And so and that's something that men and women can work together on, right? So if women see that men have the opportunity to better themselves in a non-feminine way, or just in a way that tends towards masculine, masculine sensibilities or whatever, behaviors, whatever, then they should go with that. I mean, they should be like, yeah, I'm for that's a masculine thing. Men want to do that. We should be for that. You know what I'm saying? And then we should do the same thing for women. I think it's like, okay, well, this is the kind of stuff. This is a feminine thing, and we should be for that, and we should sort of structure ourselves for that. And I think in the long run that it's going to be like, women actually do want masculinity, so it's not something that nobody has the upper hand, I don't think, because the women, like, whether you could say that sort of femininity is like sort of like in charge of things now, but women are going to demand the masculinity, and the masculinity is already in the men anyway. So I don't see it's sort of like fighting against yourself. Like we're all, in some sense, the men and the women are all really just one thing. So, as much as you can imagine, the women being having being irresponsible. You can also find, I mean, for any point, you could go point for point for point for point for point. And the only way that you're going to be able to organize that is to say, this is my value system, right? And to me, the value system in this case is to find parity, because that's the only way that we're going to fucking overcome the problem. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in whose fucking fault it is. I don't give a shit about trying to twist somebody's arm emotionally. Like I just doesn't interest me. It doesn't appeal to me. I just want to fix the fucking problem, right? So I don't know. Those are some thoughts there. Is there anything else? So there was the idea. Okay, one of the things I was thinking about. I wasn't really sure how to address this, but I wanted to contrast this with what I was working on here. So the idea. Okay, so with contrasting, when do men and women actually interact with debate form well? And I think that most interaction, I mean, this could be between anybody, really. Like most of our interaction is nonverbal, but with between men and women, this is just compounded like a million fucking fold. Like most of our communication is nonverbal. It's not a verbal output in a sense. It's a totally different thing. So I wonder, like, let's say we're working on the project of repairing relations between men and women, what's an appropriate way to do that, right? So, and I don't think debating, like, I don't think going, I think it just kills the fucking thing, because it's about, a lot of it too, it is about charisma, right? It's about charisma it's about the dance between the sexes. It's about us feeling compelled to do the things that we think we should do, based upon our, it's not, it's just, I think it's kind of hard to tie that together well, but hopefully you see what I'm talking about there. So it's more about the instinctual, like working with the instinctual aspect of the interactions, right? So, and how do you do that? So, my idea was to have something like a virtual relationship where people can look in between, can see what's going on, but it's sort of like you're sort of pretending, not completely pretending, like it's real, like the feelings are real, but the interaction is just over the internet. So it's sort of like a simulated relationship, and then people can look in between that, right? They could stand in between that, and they could say, "Oh wow, that's interesting." I mean, that in itself would change the conversation. Like if you could pull something like that off, so it's just it's about, to me, to fix the problem, is about changing the conversation. But not, I don't think you're going to do it with debates. It's about, maybe it's not about changing. It's about changing the way that we think. It's not just the conversation. And, you change the way that you think by seeing things and sort of getting new inputs and sort of understanding things and new ways. And I think we have to, in some extent, we do have to relook at ourselves from what we are as animals and reconstruct ourselves psychologically, and build that into society. And I think that we've been like lying to ourselves a lot about what we are and sort of like the dynamics of what we are. And I think if we can look at ourselves more like we're just observing nature, if everything doesn't have so much fucking emotion, so much of this like, connected to it, stand back a little bit, just say, these are just two people interacting with each other, and then look at it, and then figure out what we want to do. Because a lot of it too, like a lot of stuff is in the dark. Like most of the stuff that we do is in the dark, just because the stakes are so fucking high, right? If something happens and you get your fucking hands chopped off, if you say that something happens, then that thing is just never going to happen. And most of what we are is like that. So we do lie to ourselves a lot. When it so all right. Can we create systems that allow us to see things honestly instead of just telling ourselves, or just repeatedly like hypnotizing ourselves, like telling ourselves like this is what we are? Is there a way to see the way that we are, and then build the work? Whatever. I know Gadsad would think of this as thinking about things scientifically, and that's what he does. And I said I was more leaning towards the natural order of things, how I saw it. But we have this new context, and of modern society, the modern age, right? We have the internet. We have these social media platforms, and this stuff is not going away. I mean, even if YouTube shut down, if YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all this shit shut down, to me, it just seems obvious this is not going anywhere. This is the future. It wouldn't even be. It's not that much of a stretch of the imagination to not even see completely decentralized systems that take care of this stuff, so that there wouldn't even be a shut-off point. So yeah, this is the future. This is not going anywhere. So, and it's just a matter of dealing with the dynamics of the situation. So with the science stuff, with the sort of like to some extent, because the dynamics have changed so much, we can't necessarily obsess about the old science, or about the science that we've seen in the past, because things are changing. Things are going to keep on changing and change. So. Yeah, it's also important with anything. With science, you could say this is the way things are, but it's also really important to try and see how things are going to be, and try and build off of those things that we think are most stable in what's to come, and the changes that are going to come. Is there anything else?
Going to have sex with men who did not, in fact, care about them, and in fact, when everyone to what women
especially the guys who like to.
It's just unavoidable. There are lots of people who will regularly, lots of dating coaches who regularly complain about night.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this format gets us to where we want to be. So, yeah, I can't think of anything else to say. So.